this is Mig Jimenez one more time here trying to make something interesting for all of you. Like I told you last time, in this occasion, this time will be just in English, but if you have any question, maybe I can reply you in Spanish. But because today is a very important day, an international day, this is why I need to make it in Spanish. So I apologize for my Spanish friends. Lo siento mucho, chicos, pero esta vez este vídeo va a ser en inglés, porque lo había prometido así, aparte que es un día muy especial e internacional, porque mañana es el Día de la Victoria, hoy en algunos países, pero mañana en Rusia, así que hoy voy a explicarlo en inglés. Pero igualmente lo vais a poder ver visualmente y no habrá ningún problema, y seguro que si tenéis dudas os pueden responder en el chat. Okay, guys. Right now, just in English. Like you know, tomorrow and today is the Victory Day in almost all countries in the world. It's the day that the Allies won the Second World War over the German. Today is the celebration in many countries like France or England or USA, but tomorrow is the Victory Day just in Russia, and I think that in another countries around Russia. But because you know that we love Russian subjects, we thought that could be a good idea to make today a paint demonstration about how to paint a T-34, that is a very emblematic and iconic tank in the Second World War. So I thought about to paint a T-34, but just out of box, without any complication, just green color, because always we try to paint our tanks with complex camouflage or a lot of effects. But what about the people who want just to paint a tank in green color, a monochromatic tank? So that is the video for today, how we can paint a tank in just one color, like green in that case, and also using the solution box, the mini solution box that we released recently. And I think that could be a good way to demonstrate you how to paint a tank with really few colors. Well, here I have the box that is almost half size of the classic solution box, but I think that is very good for many beginners, especially if you are starting. You just buy a kit like this one. That is one of the tanks that I prepared for today. The new T-34 85 from Tamiya, which is a very nice kit, not too complex. You can build in just one evening if you want. And this solution box is perfect to paint our model from today. I will show you what is inside, just to give you one idea how simple and how easy it can be. Let me open one second. Let me show you here, much better, okay? So this is a solution box that contains really few stuff, just the necessary things for painting your tank. This was designed by Ivan Drot, that is one of our friends from Russia. He's living in Moscow. So from here I send to Ivan my best regards from Spain. But also I don't want to forget to Jimmy Tranter and Ian Hamilton. Jimmy Tranter from UK and Ian Hamilton from Connecticut, from USA. They are here helping us with the message. If you have any question, doubts, they can reply you, and they help me a lot, like usually. And of course, Vladimir Paredes, that is always organizing everything, and the rest of my team of hemos, because I am not alone here. Always many people helping me. So today, thank you, my friends, and let's go to see what is in the solution box. Like you can appreciate, it's like a classic solution box, but it's much smaller. Here we have an idea of what is inside in 4 languages: English, Spanish, French, and German. And inside we can find the typical and classic solution book that we are releasing always in 4 languages also, and with a very detailed step-by-step explaining all paints, all process, with a nice step-by-step, including some product that the kit doesn't contain, like the cement or glues or decal fixers. Also, the books contain nice instructions about how to use the colors, the mixture, the pressure, the type of brush that you must use in each process, that help a lot to the beginners. But also to me, for example, I use the solution box for German planes. You know that I like planes a lot, but like a hobby. So I use the solution box for planes to help me when I am painting my models. So it's useful for all kind of modelers. So this is a good example that you can see. Shake the color, use the airbrush, dilute the color 60% and 40% of thinner, let dry 24 hours, the pressure and the distance to the model when you are painting. So very interesting. And this is how we will start today with our model. Of course, not with the decals, because we already applied. I made the homework before, obviously, just to save time. But we will start with this process, that is using the brushes for make highlights and a kind of fading, which is interesting for any single color vehicle. So if you get one of those boxes, you will obtain one of those books, and inside we can see the product that contains the primer. Very important, that is the first step, the first process. Obviously, I already use it. The base color, color for chipping, the wash, a dark wash, streaking grime, fuel and engine oil, which is very useful almost for all vehicle, matte, heavy hard, that will give a nice look in combination with the green, a dry splashes color, a dry matte splashes color, and finally the thinner, which is one of the most important things. The thinner is absolutely important to use one of those, because if you use any kind of thinner from any drugstore, maybe you will find problems when you are blending your colors or mixing them. So I recommend you to use the standard odorless thinner to avoid any kind of problems. And finally, a couple of oil brushes. One is green and the other is a dusty heart. With a combination of both, we can make the highlights. And I will show you right now how to use them, each one. So, I prepare some, for example, this turret and another T-34 that I will show you later. My friend Ivan from Russia was telling me that something was wrong with the letters. This is Mat Rodina for the motherland, no? But he said that it's opposite or something, any kind of mistake. No idea, because I just copy from the instruction. This is an old Berlin production dry decals that I had since long time ago. So no idea if this is correct or not, but I thought that could be interesting just for the demonstration from today. That is related to the Russian fighting to the Germans in the Second World War. And by the way, I hope you like my teaser. I used it a long time ago, but I think that today was the perfect moment to use it again. So let's go to start painting, because we have 2 hours and I want to explain you almost everything of the process. It's very simple. Remember that we have really few products that you can see here in my table, a couple of acrylics and many weathering products, but it's very, very, very simple. You don't need to get too crazy thinking about the process or filters or many complex technique that sometimes we develop and sometimes is not the most appropriate for people who just want to make something for fun and relax it. So I think that is a good start for any beginner. We will need the thinner, of course, and we will start with the oil brushes, like I told you. Let me show you this. Well, this is the Victory Day sticker that we made for this special day. Remember that all orders in our website from today and tomorrow will get for free that sticker that is a kind of souvenir to remember this day. The next year we will make another one, so maybe the people can collect each year, no? So today and tomorrow you will obtain this sticker. The other is the St. George ribbon, that is a typical ribbon that all Russians use this day, well, tomorrow, and they are used to dress like this. I have many because Ivan's mother sent me a amount of them. She made for me long time ago, and I really appreciate it. Here I have a couple that are beautiful. This one with the old symbol, and the other one. So this is why I just put here together with a sticker. But the ribbon is not given for free with your order. It's just from my own collection. And more. Well, this is the solution box, the mini. Remember that this is just for like a starter set, something very basic. And you will see how to use all of those elements in a good way today. The content. And here I want to share with you a couple of books that are very interesting for people who like the Second World War subjects, especially Russian. Well, one is in French because it was in my collection in French, but you can find in English or Spanish. And the other is a new book that we released about the T-34, which I think that could be useful, like a reference for ideas for our models if we want to make our model for this event that we are organizing here. Probably many of you already know this. This is not only for T-34, but KB, Joseph Stalin, SU, and all family of T-34 with very interesting camouflage and versions. Okay. And the other is the brand new T-34 book that we released not long time ago. This is in 3 languages, so we are avoiding the problem to make many different books in many different languages. So everything about the T-34. There are many about the T-34 85. With very good information about symbols and other interesting things, like, for example, the wheels. Okay, so come back to my model, because it's what we need to do now. Remember that we are using the 2 oil brushes, the olive green and dusty hair. We will use this aluminum palette to take a portion of the oils. Remember, like usually, that if you have any question, you can write in the chat, and my friends will help me to reply you, and I can do by myself too, if I can read it, because I am focused just painting and maybe I have no time to read everything. Someone is asking me about if there are a book about helicopters. No, not by now. My friend Herman Sievers from Chile. remember that even if I am talking in English, if you have any Spanish question, I will try to reply you. More. Now we need a brush. I will show you something small like this, could be more than enough. 3-0. And we will mix both colors, almost 50%. And we will obtain a very light green like this. This will help us to make the highlights in our model. Because now it's very flat. If we don't want to make it too complicated with the airbrush making highlights, masking and everything, this is a good option, especially for beginners. I will make zoom. And where to paint? Well, let me show you one example that I made yesterday. Here is an example in the Tamiya T-34 in 1/48 scale, using the same color, the same mixture, and painting around some panels, trying to create contrast between them. That is the most important. So we can start painting, for example, 1 second. Remember that after we made this and the other process, the rest of the weathering will make a nice effect over this kind of contrast. Of course, unifying everything. So try to exaggerate right now. Don't be shy. For example, here, if I want to make more contrast around the hats, this could be a nice place to do it. Around periscopes and over the cap of the periscopes could be a good place. Here we can paint in both sides of the mantlet, or also we can paint inside the mantlet, depending what do you want to do, where do you want the contrast. Can be outside or inside, or like in that case, one in each side. But I am not painting here because I already painted over the roof of the turret, and I am trying to create contrast between different panels. This represents, for example, the fading. And try to be random. Don't repeat the same effects in both sides. You can make in one side, but not in the other. Especially when we are painting the hull of the tank, the fenders, the mud guards. Arnel Flandez is asking if there are also a solution board for Second World War US armor. Yes, there are one specific for US armor, but bigger, with more products, much more interesting, more complete. Okay? There are also for German tanks, and many for planes, even for science fiction, some of them, and we are still working in many. So we are painting now the roof, and now it's time to start blending before it dries too much. Now we need the thinner. And I like to use a flat brush for blending, and also a sponge that I will show you right now. I like this kind of a sponge that I will show you right now. Let me open the bag. And this shape that you can see here is very interesting because we have a very thin top of the sponge, very accurate, but also we have a kind of biselled part that help us to in many areas in our tanks. Okay, I will show you now how to use it. So with the brush, just take a bit of thinner and remove the excess in the tissue paper, because the brush must be almost dry, not too dampened. And now we can start blending the oil. If you damp too much the brush, you will remove a lot of paint from the surface, which is not interesting. So I recommend you to keep almost dry the brush. So the first step is to work with the brush, trying to blend the oil from inside to outside. Remember that the oil brushes are not like standard oils. The oil brushes dry faster than the standard oils, which is better when we are painting models, because we don't need to dry for too long time. But also we must be faster when we are doing this. Observe how I am moving the turret around to help me to for the positioning of the brush and my hand. My arm and my hand always is standing over the table, so I have more stability when I am doing this or painting little chips. The sponge can be used to help me to blend the color a bit more, like for example here, and make the effect more softer. Maybe it's not so easy to appreciate in the screen right now, but trust me that in life it's even more accurate and more soft. And we continue blending the color. Remember to use really a small quantity of thinner with the brush. Now I will show you one way, a brown way, using too much thinner, and you will see what happens. But first, let me finish this area. For example, the top of the sponge can be used to blend it in that area. As you can see, it's not necessary to have too many abilities to do this. Just with the right brush, the right thinner, and the right color, it will be very easy for everybody. And even don't need to be too much perfect and accurate, blending the color and making very soft, because remember that later we will add more techniques like dashes, washes, streaking, and everything will help to integrate all effects in your model. While I am doing this, let me tell you that the next week, well, today was upload the previous in live video that I made 1 month ago about realisms in Spanish, and was uploaded this morning in case that someone want to see more like this in YouTube, in our channel. And this video also will be uploaded to YouTube when we finish, probably before the next video. Okay, here. I painted my model with acrylic directly over the primer surface and with no varnish, just over the decals, over the dry transfers, but no varnish in general, covering the whole model. So you can paint directly over your model. It's important to get a little or subtle satin surface in your model, because this will help to create more contrast with the dust and other effects, and will give to our model appearance of metal parts. Well, let me show you here one bad example. What happens if I take too much thinner in our brush and we try to blend this? Well, if we damp too much, we will remove too much color and will be more difficult to blend the oil. And probably when we will remove everything. So it's better to use the brush almost dry. Just humidify it with a thinner. And finally, the sponge will help us to make it more soft. Of course, the sponge must be dry. And observe that I am doing immediately after blending with the brush. I am not waiting 1 day or few hours. I am doing right now. This is very important. Okay. And now we have kind of highlights in the roof of the turret. A bit exaggerated, but it's necessary, because if we don't do it that way, we will lose almost everything with the next steps. So I recommend you to exaggerate right now. Let's go to paint the cupola. And the size of the turret, of course, always trying to find the contrast. Even if we have letters like this, don't worry if you do this over the letters, because we will blend later, so it's not important. And here we can do it, but underneath. Let's go to the other side. And remember what I told you, that try to make different both sides. For example, if here I paint here in that lower part of the turret, in the other side I paint in the top part of the tower. Trying to make the opposite in both sides. Maybe not always is possible because the shape of the tank, but try to be different in all areas of your tank, especially when your tank is monochromatic like the one from today. Maybe also the cupola hatch, we can make some highlights. And here in the front. Okay. And now let's go for blending. We change the brush and we take the flat brush. It's very small, but it's better than a rounded flat for this kind of purpose. Well, more information for the next video that I will make. The next one will be not in Saturday. We will announce when, because I cannot do it that every Saturdays, because I have a family and I have other things to do during the weekend also. So it's hard for me because I need to do a lot of work before make this kind of video. I need a couple of days to prepare everything, to make a model, to pre-paint, and to think about what I will talk. So it consumes a lot of time for me. If I made the videos more simple, just talking about something that could be interesting for you, maybe I can make more videos even in Saturday, you know? But if it's a kind of video like this that is complex and needs more work, probably I will need to change the day and do it during the week. But we will inform you in the next days if you are interested. And remember that this video is only for our group of Facebook. Well, we are close to finish, and we will move to the next step, that will be the washes. The next video will be about filters. We just released new filters, acrylic filters. Sorry. And I thought that could be interesting to talk about them and to explain how to use them, the difference between acrylic filters and enamel filters. I am trying to go faster because we have only a couple of hours, like always. Remember that those videos are from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And one more time, the sponge will help us to make it softer. Well, almost done. We can create more or less contrast depending our taste or wishes, but I think that is more than enough to explain you how to use the oils. Let me show you here the example in my model, in the other T-34 that I will show you later. Here is how I started, and this is the final look, but including the washes. So you can see that I am making bigger and bigger the contrast between the different panels. Remember that the most dangerous is when you have a single color tank, that could be too much monochromatic, too much boring, and we must try to think about how to make attractive that monotony around our model. And this is a good way to do it. And very easy. The good thing is that if we make something wrong or bad, we can fix it easily and we can repeat. Or we can let dry and we can do it again to make more contrast. I don't want to forget any area. It's very important, don't damp or humidify the sponge within. The sponge must be completely dry. It's very, very important. If we want a very soft effect, it must be very dry. Okay. So our turret is more or less done. We can make more if we want, but I think that is not necessary. Here, for example. And now helping with the sponge. Super easy. One more time. I am trying to accentuate and exaggerate the well seams in the turret. And the oils is a good way to do it. Later we will do the opposite by using a dark color. We will use the streaking grime to create shadow under the well seam. And here maybe we can repeat also. Okay, and the rear, which is a bit boring, we can Okay, so the first step is done. Let's check the original book. If we want to follow the instructions, so we made this step. Let me find it. We made this step using the brushes, making the highlights, and now we are ready to make the washes. For the wash, we have this dark color. It's maybe too dark, but most of the green tanks are very dark too, so we need a nice contrast. So this color is perfect for that. Always shake it very well. By the way, right now that I am looking at the screen, this is the new Amo for Life bracelet. This is for the foundation that we are making. It's our bigger project at Amo. Remember that we started a long time ago a project that is Amo for Life, trying to help to the people with problems. We started with the cancer, helping to some hospitals and some places who are helping to the cancer prevention. So we decided to create a foundation where we want to put a big part of our benefits on them, just to help other people. And this is part of the project that we will explain in the incoming months, because we will use that benefits to help to different areas of the society around the world, not only in Spain but around the world. And this yellow bracelet have a meaning that we will explain in incoming future. This is the new logo and the new color for Amo for Life. So please just keep informed through our social media, Facebook or Instagram, because we will give you more information about the foundation, about what we will do, and in case that also if you want to help us to collaborate with those people who really need our help. We feel happy doing that like a company. For us it's more important to feel that we are helping other people thanks to our work, that just to be focused just in modeling, no? Because we discovered that most of us, we have friends, modeler friends who have big illness or problems with the cancer or another kind of physical impediments or problems. So for us it's important to help not only the modelers but also to the people that is around the modelers, that there are many, no? We discovered that almost everybody have at home a case with cancer, no? For example, so why not to help them, no? So we will inform you about that. That will be very, very nice and interesting. But now let's go to the washes. So simple, easy and nice. For the washes, I recommend you not only a brush, like for example this is more than enough, number 2, okay? But also I recommend you another kind of a sponge to remove the excess of washes, and is that shape, okay? Is sorry, let me show you in this camera. Is this that have a kind of shape like an egg. This is the sponge, and the consistency and texture is very appropriate to clean the excess of washes in our models. I will show you how to use it, but first we need to apply the wash. We can put a bit of wash in our palette, because it will be easier to work with that, and we will avoid accidents in case that we touch our bottle and it fall down and could be terrible. So it's better to take just a portion, a bit of them, and start painting our model. Remember that the washes works by capillarity, so it's not necessary to especially if the surface is satin. If the surface is too matte or too flat, maybe we will have problems because we'll expand in many directions. But we want to concentrate the washes around the rivets and the tiles like I am doing right now. Is focus? Yes, it's in focus. There are many ways to apply the washes, many ways. But this is one of them, that is a kind of pin wash, trying to concentrate the wash only around the details, joints, panels, or lines. Don't overflow too much. Just apply the necessary amount. Oops, I make a little accident, but I can remove it. And the wash will give us a lot of contrast to our model. So the well seams around the fan cupolas, the extractors, the smoke extractors. Obviously, it's important to let dry the oils few hours. In fact, probably if we read the instruction of the booklet, the book from Ivan Drott, we will read that it's necessary to let dry for some hours because it's still fresh, and if we are dumping with too much washes, probably we can remove part of the oils. But so just if you are watching this video, remember that if you apply the oils, let dry them for a few hours. I recommend you 1 day. Also the well seams. The pistol port. The other side. And now, after apply the washes, there are 2 ways to blend or to clean the excess of washes. One is blend it with thinner and a clean brush, removing the excess. And the other is letting dry and removing with the sponge. The second is a bit risky because in case that it dry too much, maybe we cannot remove it with the sponge. Or if the surface is too matte, flat, probably we will have problems to remove with the sponge too. But the sponge can be very useful. For example, if we have a tank with many rivets, many details, or big surfaces, then could be interesting the sponge. Well, more or less. So, areas where could be interesting to blend it with the brush. Even we can use the same brush, for example, in areas where I cannot introduce the sponge. For example, around the antenna cylinder, around the back of the periscope, or some very high components For example, between the loader hatch and the cupola, could be nice to clean with the brush. Or this mistake that I made, we can clean with the brush. Even inside the hatch. Remember that we are using the same product that appear or you can find in the Solution Box Mini for Russian tanks. Exactly the same products. And for the rest of the washes, maybe we can use the sponge that I told you before. This area is difficult for the sponge, so it's perfect for the brush. We can use now the sponge, and if we see areas that need the help of the brush, we can come back to the brush again. So to paint models is not just to paint with a strictly method and follow the method. Don't move from outside. No? We can improvise, we can change, we can find our way that adapt better to our style of modeling. And now with the sponge, okay, with the sponge we will rough the surface from top to down with a very fast movement and not too hard to avoid to remove all wash. Okay, here. If you press too much over the surface, you will remove too much wash, which is not interesting. We must try to create contrast. And if we make something wrong, we can repeat again the process with the oils. And finally the hatch. If it's still too fresh the wash, maybe we can make a mess, and we must clean again with the brush the center of the hatch. And now with this, we can clean to make it more nice. Finally, the man-thread cover, always in the logic direction, for example in that case from here to here, and that part with the brush. Small areas always is better the brush. Okay, more or less. So I made this one very fast. Obviously, it's important to let dry the oil brush much more. or the wash will be mixed with the oil, which is not nice. But I just wanted to explain you how to do it very fast in that example, because I took my time painting this other little tank from Tamiya. Let me show you 1 second. That I made, where I made exactly the same steps, exactly the same. Okay, but this is already dry because I painted between yesterday and today, and it's more precise and more accurate than the other because I made with more time. For example, areas that I want to show you. Let me remove this and the other parts so the camera can be focused just here. You can appreciate here the highlight that I made in this fender, and here just in the opposite side. I create a lot of contrast in many panels and areas, and the washes in the grills, obviously, highlights to change the color from the fan cover to this part. Also in the drums, in the fuel drums, and also in the rear plate around the hatch, making more lighter and more dark in the middle. Also in the turret, you can appreciate the contrast. For example, here, that I painted with the oils, here the washes, even for this little part of the mantelet, making the contrast to make more volume. In both sides, exactly the same, and in the roof. But observe the nice contrast between this area more dark and this one more light. Even over the decal, I make a kind of fading with the green. So this can be ready to make more effects. Related with how to paint a tank, because sometimes the experts or the professional modelers, we forget that there are people who need more help. For example, how to paint a tank. If we paint separately the different parts or all together, well, with this Tamiya kit, I made the next thing. In one side, I paint the hull in one piece, but I glued the drums and the hatches with ultra glue, which will help me to remove it in case that I want to paint separately, or I want to make effects under the drums, or I want to paint the hatch from inside. So I glue it with ultra glue. In fact, here I think you can see the ultra glue from inside. This is not cyanoacrylato, but it's ultra glue. So from one side we have the hull, the other side the chassis with the inner wheel only, and separately the trucks with the front and rear wheels. So I can paint the wheels separately, paint the rubber. Let me show you here. I can paint the rubber easily. I can paint it with the airbrush. I can paint the trucks with the airbrush too. And all that I need to do is place the trucks with the wheels all together in my tank, like this. And finally, I can make the mat, I can make dust, and finally I will glue this wheel over here. Okay, and my model will be finished. So this will help me to allow me to apply the math in the hidden places, because those trucks are plastic. It's not like metal trucks like Freewood model. So this is a good way to separate the trucks from the wheels. I really recommend you this method, because you can paint the trucks, you can paint the wheels, and assemble it all together in a good way. Also the hatch is separately here of the turret. but this is how I paint those little tanks. So now my model will be ready for the next step, that will be chipping. Okay. Here I lay you my model while I prepare the next step. The chipping color is included in the solution box. It's a very dark brown, and I will use to paint the chipping around different areas, hatches and mantlet of my model. Also, I want to use a sponge. Let me find it. For example, this. I use this kind of sponge that are typical from the electronic devices. You can find in any place. And remember to observe the grain of the sponge, which is very important when we are making the chipping. 1 second, like this, much better. So with the sponge, with the chipping color and a fine brush, we will start making the chipping in our model. We can use high quality brushes like those from Premium Marta Kolinsky that we have at Amo. Those are very good for figures, especially this one, very thin. Also, they are expensive. They are expensive more than the yellow ones. But in case that you have, you need high quality brushes, those are the ones for you. And use the yellow ones for the weathering and general purposes, which is much cheaper than the black ones. But for the chipping, I like to use those because sometimes it's easier and they have more accuracy than the yellow ones. So let us start with the chipping over my model. We need to remove the turret, the hull, and everything. And we will start painting, shaking the color very well. Remember that all our bottles have steering valves inside. And we can start first with the sponge, creating general effects. For the sponge, I recommend you to take a piece like this and remove small parts of the sponge to make it more irregular. Okay. And now we can take the color like this. We will use a nice tissue paper to remove the excess. And we can go directly, for example, to the mantlet in our model. Okay. Just a little, don't overdo it, because this is just the preview. Here in the gun, because this is a typical place where the tankers touch it very often when they are climbing up to the tank. Also around the cupola. More intense in one side than the other. And maybe also over the fan, the extractor cupolas. Under those two things, there are two fans, two extractors to take out the smoke that are coming from the gun and to keep clean inside. In fact, the late version of the T-34 they moved one of those fans to the top. So this one was taking air from outside, and the other in the front was taking the air outside of the turret. That was a nice improvement for the T-34 in the end of the war and for the post-war tanks. So if you see a T-34 with the one fan here, it's because it's a late version. Don't forget that the ring of the turret also is affected by the chipping, because sometimes many stones and sand and hair around the turret ring damage the turret. Okay, so you can see here the effect with the sponge that give a nice look of metal. Okay, and now let's go for the hull. And let's start with the fenders, which is an easy part. For bigger scales, the sponge is even better than for the smaller ones like 72nd or 148, but for 135 or 116 is much better. Just a little, and don't overdo it, because also we need to work with the brass. Don't forget it. And there are parts that are not affected by this kind of fading or chipping. So you must apply with a bit logic and not too much. Because we made the fading with the light greens, it will help us to create more contrast. Because I have in here maybe a piece of paper here, for example. We can use a mask or paper just to protect some areas and make chipping in another areas. Okay. You can do over more places in your tank, but this is just an example, just to show you that you can use paper or tape mask for that purpose. Okay, and now let's go with the brass. Well, one good area to make the chipping is around the loader's hatch, because we cannot do it with a sponge. Of course we can do it. If we remove the hatch, we can apply with a sponge, but here because I want big chipping. Even for 1/48 scale, I will use the smaller brush. Small dots. Not always is necessary to make shapes. The chipping process is the more tedious and long in any tank. You need a lot of time to paint the chipping, and it consumes a lot of energies and time. So I just want to show you just a little what we are doing, and obviously you must do the same in all parts of your model and need a lot of time, probably one day of work or a couple of days of work. Here are some big chipping, because this is a more fragile part in our tank. And one more time, don't repeat the same effects in both sides of your model. So it means if you are doing here the chipping, don't do here. Keep one side completely clean of chipping, and you will obtain more contrast and more realism. Fortunately, the sponge helps us a lot to go faster, but the brush is always necessary, or to use another techniques like the chipping fluid, which is more complex and we need more time. But today I am trying to share basic techniques for everybody, basic ones. So if you are starting modeling, this is your video. Okay, for example, maybe in one side, we can make also scratches. Well, enough. Like an example of how to make chipping with the brush and with the sponge. Also, I explained many times this process in other of my videos, so I think that it's not necessary to explain again in the whole tank, because I don't want to lose more time for this. But now it's important to move to another step, and we will take again our book, following the instruction of Ivan Drott. So after chipping, he recommends us the streaking effects, that is the vertical lines that appear in many tanks due to the effects of the rain and the dirt. And it's a very nice step, very simple, and I like a lot. This is one of my favorite. So we will take the streaking grind product that is enamel and needs odorless thinner, of course. Always check it before use it. Don't forget to change the brush, because don't use the acrylic ones, the ones that you were using for the acrylic. And like I made before, take the color and deposit in the palette, which will be much better. Safety, and also you will save product in case that your bottle fall down because any kind of accident. So I like to work in that way, always to put a bit of color in the palette and work directly with this. So for the streaking, we need a flat brush also before we start. For example, this one is good for the 1/48 scale, the number 4. This is not totally flat, but I haven't here any other, well, maybe this, let me show you some different examples. Yes, I have. Well, we have different ones like this, that is sagged, is not regular, and this helps us with the streaking, but this is too big, so I don't want to use it. And here I have other ones in bisel that is cut in angle, which is very useful for some part of our tank. And this is rounded, and there are another completely flat, but I cannot find right now in my table. But I will use this one, which is nice, and I use a lot. Okay, so for the streaking, it's so simple. Start drawing, let me make it zoom, lines, vertical lines from top to down with different lengths, some of them shorter, another one longer, like this. Always the most intricate part is under the handles of the turret, with different intensities always, okay, like this. And now with this brush and thinner we will blend with vertical movements. When I place any other object in the table, the camera focuses automatically to the others and not to my model. Okay, like this. So, humidifying the brush with the thinner, we will start blending the color. Not at once, don't try to blend it at once. Make it in different movements, in one round and another round. It's more easy in that way. Clean the brush and repeat. Okay, this is the way. Juan Carlos Ferreiro, I am reading your message right now. The next video will be about filters. El próximo vídeo, Juan Carlos, será sobre los filtros, porque además hemos sacado los nuevos filtros Así os los puedo explicar. Estos son los filtros acrílicos. ¿Os acordáis que tenemos los filtros esmalte? Y estos son los nuevos en acrílico que tienen propiedades diferentes. Así que el próximo vídeo será sobre estos precisamente. Let's go to the other side of the turret. Aquí, mejor. As you can see, the lines doesn't need to be too much perfect because everything will be blended. Don't overflow the surface with thinner, very important. Always be sure that you just humidify the brush a bit, a little. Just humidify. No, don't overflow or don't damp too much. What happened at the top of our model? Well, we can use the streaking in a different way. For example, painting, or here making contrast, or around the cupola, for example, where is typical the accumulation of water and rust. And also around the gun is a good area. So the next is to let dry just a little, because it dries fast, but just in appearance, because it needs to more time for dry completely. And even with this brush, with the flat one, we can blend the streaking with vertical movements. Or with our round brush for those areas. I forgot to tell you that I made a video for Russia about how to paint the Typhoon truck, the Typhoon Kamaz truck. You know, this popular and modern Russian truck that Con released a long time ago. Well, I painted that model also with a very simple method for Russian people, for Russian modelers, for Arma models in Moscow, and we will post that video in case that you want to see it. It's a long video, it's a couple of hours video, and we will post the first chapter during this week. So just pay attention to our social network, because we will announce very soon about how to paint the typhoon. Well, you can see how easy it is to blend the streaking over our model. Very easy. And it helps us to create more contrast and more deep. A bit more around the periscope. And now blend it. When the streaking is a bit dry, it's more easy to blend it, remember, except the vertical lines that we don't need to let dry too much. Well, I am trying to read any message, but Ian is helping me, so no problem. Roberto Brasara, from Argentina. My friend Roberto. ¿Se puede lograr los mismos efectos con óleos o enamels? You can achieve the same effect with oils or enamels? Yes and no. The oils dry very slowly, and sometimes that is more difficult to make it with oils than with those enamels. And the enamels, normal enamels, yes, of course, I recommend you enamels, in fact. This is enamel. But if you have any other color that fit in what you are looking for, maybe you can use those enamels, which is better for the streaking than the oils, because the oils need more time for drying. You can do it, yes, but it's more complex. Even you can make it with acrylics using different methods, but I don't recommend you. Remember that each product, each tool is useful for different purposes. For example, the acrylic is very good for base colors, but the enamels is good for make weathering. And I will explain you about the filters in the next video. Why acrylic or why enamel, the differences and the good things of each one. Well, the turret is more or less done. Let me fix this part of the gun. But the model is taking more effects, more variety. It's not so boring like in the beginning. Remember when we started painting the other turret that was completely in one color, more boring. Now we can see more effects, which make our model more attractive, obviously, to our eyes. We need to make the same to the hull, but I don't know which hour is right now. We have only half hour, so I prefer to move forward to make other effects like the mud and the dust. Obviously, we need to finish the completely hull, but I want to show you more techniques. So, for the mud and dust, we have 3 colors in our set. Let me check, everything is going big. Okay. We have 3 colors. We have the dusty hair from oils, mud product that is high density but is heavy hair, which is very dark but dry, not glossy. And finally, we have the dry step, which is a very light color. I love this color. It's one of my favorite, and I use a lot the dry step. But this is lighter than this one. This is more dense, and this is lighter. What is the difference between those and the typical and classic enamels? Those have a kind of texture inside. So if we are working with them, remember that those have texture, and it's good for heavy matte areas, but be careful. In case that you want to make soft dust, it's better to use the oils or the enamel products. But let's see how to use those. Ivan Droth recommend to start with the dusty hair, but maybe I prefer to start directly with this one over my model. Let me show you this. Okay. Well, we will use this brush and we will repeat the same process than before, taking a bit of the product and applying in the palette to avoid accidents, and just use the necessary product. So, how we can start? I recommend you always start applying the dry matte or the dust in the horizontal areas, but because this one contains texture, I recommend you start using it over the fenders, because it's a more logic area. For example, here, and remember, don't do it in every places. Try to be random. A bit here. I don't know if you can appreciate the texture. Yes, maybe you can appreciate, right? You can see a kind of very subtle texture, which is very interesting. Here around this little box to create more contrast. But I don't paint everything, or one more time will be too much homogeneous. And I don't want that, I want variety. Also, another good area is around this kind of cupola for the machine gun. And accumulated here. In both sides. For people who paint tanks for war games, for example, in 1/56 scale, that is a very good technique, because it's similar scale to this one. For example, the people who like to paint Rubicon, and I don't repeat the same in the other side, but I will do here. Always changing from one side to the other. Here I accumulate in that corner, but in the other side I don't repeat the same. That is extremely important. Please remember, don't repeat the same effects in both sides, especially in a monochromatic vehicles. And another thing that I like it is behind this box, where the dust can be a lot of very accumulated. Even later we can apply real leaves from trees or hair. Finally, another good area for this product is around the turret ring. Not in every places, eh? And maybe here a bit. And here. And now it's time for blending. Also behind the wheel drums could be interesting. This is why I like to make removable, well, the wheel drums, because you can now remove it and paint under them. This is why I glue it with ultra glue and not cement for plastic. But I don't want to remove now. Just as an advice for you. Well, now the same brush can be used for blending the mat. Let me clean the table a bit. So, like this. Okay, and start blending. We need the odorless thinner one more time. And you can use the tip of the sponge also to blend all of this after the brush. Hi Robert from England, how are you? My friend Robert Bam. Sorry, I am not paying too much attention to the messages, to the posts in Facebook, because I am painting. But my friend Ian Hamilton and Jimmy are helping me to answer your questions or your comments. They are excellent modelers too, so they know how to use the products. But by now it's difficult for me to talk in English, paint my models, keep attention to the screen and to the cameras, and also reply the message that you are writing right now. When I am not painting, I can answer more questions, but now it's a bit difficult. Okay. This is a slowly process. Don't try to go too fast doing this. It's better to do it in a couple of steps. No? First step is blending the main part of the mat, and the second round will be to make it softer and more accurate. Because this is not acrylic, this is enamel, so you can let dry a bit and nothing happen. It's you back later to blend it after it is dry. Now we will make some splashes using the same product, but first it's important to to finish this part of the process. You can also use the same product, exactly the same, in the same way for the tracks. So everything will have the same tone, the same color. And if after do this you think that you lose too much contrast, you can come back to the washes and accentuate and exaggerate more the panels with the washes. Remember what I told you a few minutes ago, that this is not something that is solid and you cannot move from that system of painting. You can develop your own way and your own steps. Everything that you can read in the books or in the solution book is just recommendations or suggestions or tips, no? In case that you are a bit lost or you never painted before, it can help you a lot. But as soon as you start painting and getting more experience, you will discover that you can alternate or make different steps, adding your own techniques and in different orders. One more time, very interesting for people painting wargame tanks, because it's a fast method, realistic enough, and you can paint many tanks at the same time. To make your game a bit more realistic. For example, now I am introducing a bit of dust or mud in the grills, which is a mistake. So after it dry, if I think that I need to repeat the washes with the dark wash, then I can come back and make it more contrasted and repair that mistake. You know? That is typical when we are painting our models, of course. It's difficult to be too much accurate, especially in small scales, or when we are in a hurry, like me. Let's go to the back, to the rear. Here we can do it with vertical movements. Let me read the message. I want to lay now. I am reading the message right now. 1 second. Well, my ways, I would love to see the German late how-to video with Cómo and everything, 3-tone Cómo or airbrush. Hopefully soon, Amo is the best. Well, thank you. This is just the beginning of many videos. So please give us time and I will try to follow your suggestions. We have many things to do, so just be patient. Tanky Sherman, Mig, which compressor do you use for the airbrush? Well, one with refrigerator engine that is not noisy and is a very good one. One day I will show you with photos better. ¿Usas filtro de humedad en el aerógrafo? Do you use humid filter in the airbrush? Agustín Camiña Peso. Yes, the compressor that I use have a filter inside for the humid. Well, let me continue with the blending the matte, the dry matte, in that case, because also we have fresh matte that is more dark. I will show you later, but it's important to finish this one before we move to another effect. Remember that the areas with more matte accumulated or dust usually are the horizontal areas, more than vertical ones. And this is a common mistake in many modelers, no? That they put a lot of matte in the wheels and in the sides of the tanks, but they forget that the horizontal parts of the tanks usually have much more accumulated dust and matte than other areas. But this is because we are not used to see real tanks in our lives, and we always see photos from the human perspective and we don't see the roof or another parts. Well, more or less. Now let's go for the sponge. We can use the same sponge than before, but using a different side. And we can use it to blend it and make softer. Don't make too much softer, because the matte must be something irregular and more natural, so don't lose it all effects of the matte that we made with the brush. But in some areas could be interesting. Now we can use a flat brush, for example, this, to make splashes, using the same color than before, the same one, okay? And we will make some splashes in the front. Of course, we forgot to do it in the chassis, in the hull, but we haven't enough time for everything. But obviously, you must make matte in the side of the hull, in the front, under the knee. Now I need a toothpick, a metal toothpick like this, very useful, and we will splash the matte over our tank using those tools. Okay, like this. Remember that in 1/35 scale tank will be more easier, everything. Maybe I need to, like this. And the sponge have many utilities. Observe that when I am using the splashes like splashes, we will obtain a very fine texture. I don't know if you can appreciate, but in life it's much easier to see the texture, almost like microscopic texture. But when you overlap many layers, you will obtain a very realistic texture that you cannot achieve with normal paint. What happened with those biggest dots that appear? That is a mistake, obviously. The splashes must be more homogeneous and thin, but I am trying to make also bigger ones to show you how to repair those mistakes. I will explain you now. Well, in that case, let me show you one big one. Here. For example, here you can see one big one, too much big. So with a clean brush, just remove it with vertical movement and very fast. With the brush almost dry, very important. Because if you damp your brush with thinner, it will expand in all directions and you will ruin the work. So you can remove the big ones. For example, this one here. And after removing, we will splash again, making a second layer of splashes. Especially in the areas where you was cleaning with the brush. And also you can clean, for example, the exhaust pipes and other areas that must be clean. Remember, guys, that we are doing this because we have a challenge or a kind of contest that ends, I cannot remember if in June or July, about make your own model for the Victory Day. And we have given almost 3 months to do it. This is why I decided to make this video, no? Just in case that you need a bit help with the techniques. Maybe you can incorporate this range of techniques to your style of modeling. Are very simple techniques for everybody, not too difficult, and if you respect the process, the drying time, you will obtain nice results. I am cleaning now the exhaust pipe cover exhaust pipe cover, sorry, and also the exhaust pipes. Well, more or less, this is the way how to make the splashes. We can make also the splashes with the fresh mud, but in a different way. This oil is useful to make a kind of effects in the size. Let me show you. Like raining marks or like streaking. This one, dusty hair. José Izquierdo, ¿y en qué parte de la página se pueden descargar las pegatinas del Día de la Victoria? No, las pegatinas no se pueden descargar, sino que se regalan. Las regalamos en cualquier pedido que se haga en estos días, por el Día de la Victoria, pues os incluiremos una pegatina de estas para que os la pongáis donde queráis. Yo la tengo puesta ahí atrás, ya tengo a la mía propia, aquí la tengo. Y bueno, pues espero que cada año vayamos haciendo una a modo de hitos, ¿no?, que vamos consiguiendo a lo largo del año. Queremos sobre todo motivaros a hacer cosas. Bueno, pues con el óleo podemos pintar algunas líneas verticales, que es lo que sugiere Iván Drott en su modelo de la Solution Box Mini, y incluso con este mismo pincel que hemos utilizado antes podemos usar para mezclarlo. Él lo hace al revés, ¿eh? Él hace primero esto, que tiene también lógica, pero yo quería pasar directamente a los efectos de barro seco. Sorry, I am talking in Spanish. Ivan recommend to make first this step with the oil, and second using the dry step splashes. Just the opposite that I made, but I really wanted to start with the splashes. But also it's a good way to show you that you can alterate, you can change the process, and you don't need to follow strictly everything. And this is a good example. I need to clean here. Obviously, because I am going fast, maybe I forget some areas without blending. And this also must be very irregular. Trying to apply more intensity in one side than others. For example, here in the front. Bueno, okay, so obviously the turret is clean with no dust, and we need to do it, obviously, but the most important is that we make an example about how to paint the T-34 with all elements that contain the box. Maybe we forget to use the fresh oil, I don't know which hour is 8 o'clock, but just to show you the last product from the box, making some little drops in the engine hatch. But obviously we need to repeat all of this process in all tank, also especially in the hull, in the chassis, in the wheels, also in the tracks. Don't forget the tracks. That is so simple. It's just to take the same splashes effects and apply over the tracks. Oh, sorry. So simple, and let dry. And later with the dark color of matte, we can combine it with this one. But it's so simple. Doing this, let dry, and finally the fresh matte, that is the other one. But the method is this one. It's not too complicated. That is the most important for me. Remember that everything that I do is not to show you a perfect model made in a couple of hours, but just to explain you different techniques that can help you to improve your model. So finally, the fresh engine oil, just to end, because it's time to finish, but let me show you one of my favorite parts also, that is the engine oil. See that this is almost like real oil, but it's not. You doesn't need to shake it like the rest of the enamel products, and observe what happened when I put in my palette. That is very real but very dense, so you cannot apply directly over your model or the look will be very ugly. So you must dilute with thinner. Let me show you here. Okay. You must dilute with thinner. A bit, and make small drops over your model, very, very small. And very random. Remember, don't repeat the same in both sides. So this can be more than enough. Of course, now it's still fresh, no? But you don't need to do much more. Maybe around the turret ring. Those are the hatches for the fuel, those ones. If someday you was asking where are the refilling caps in the T-34, well, those are the caps for the fuel. Okay, when it is dry, it will be less intense because I already diluted with thinner. But this is the way how to use it. Never, never, never use it directly from the bottle to make the grease and oil in your tank, or will be too much dark, too much glossy, and will be not realistic. So first, start diluting with thinner. If when it dry, you see that it's too light or too soft, okay, repeat the process, but start from something very soft and increase the intensity of the oil. But be careful with that product. Because even if you dilute, it's still very glossy and dark. This is diluted, and observe how intense is the oil. Okay, so for little and very specific parts could be more than enough, even with a 60 or 80% of thinner. Also depend a lot of the color of your model. If your model is green or is sand color or white, you must dilute more or less the fresh engine oil. Okay, this product. So, okay, that's all, my friends, by now, because remember that I want to make another video related with the filters. That will be the next one. My friends will announce in internet, in Facebook or Instagram in advance. Today was just talking about the green tanks. I think that was a good example, something that everybody want to do someday, a T-34, a classic one, and especially celebrating the day of tomorrow that will be the Victory Day in Russia. So for all my Russian friends, my best regards from my heart. I will stay with you tomorrow. I hope one day I can stay in Moscow to see one of the parades. But by now, I will use my St. George ribbon for tomorrow. And that's all, my friend. I hope you like it. Let me check if... thank you, Georgina. And thank you, Frank, also, that you was watching the video. And my friend, David Perez. And one more time to Ian, Jimmy, and everybody that was spending this beautiful Saturday with me, just enjoying the modeling. And that's all. I hope that you can write your comments even if we finish this video, because I want to read them and I will keep in mind for the next ones. I want to take ideas of what you need and what you want for the next videos. Not all videos will be like this about painting, and other ones just talking about more theory or concepts or ideas. But anyway, those videos are made just for you. I really appreciate that you spend your time with me. And that's all, my friends. I hope you like it and see you in the next video. Okay, that's all by now. Thank you, my friends. Thank you very much and see you soon.